everyone, it's Sarah and welcome to my crochet channel. Today's video I'm going to show you how to make a basket style jar cozy. These are perfect for any of your Easter and springtime decorating, and they're also great to fill with goodies and give as gifts. You could use them also to put your silverware in around your Easter or spring celebration table. So it has lots of fun uses. And I think you're really going to enjoy making some of these. Now this is a free crochet pattern on my blog, and you can find that link down in the notes underneath this video. What you're going to need to make a basket style jar koozie or cozy is of course some yarn. I'm going to be making the demonstration out of the purple and using the pink to make the little bow. You're going to need any worsted weight number 4 yarn for this project. You can also use a cotton that's a medium number 4 as well. I just really like the Red Heart Super Saver for this project. You're going to need some sort of decorative button. You can see I've used a little flower here and a little round one there, and I'm going to use this little purple one to go with my purple yarn. We're going to be stitching today with our H hook. It's a 5.00 millimeter crochet hook. You'll need a needle for weaving in your ends, and of course you'll need a pair of scissors. And then the last thing you'll need is a jar or two, depending on how many that you make. Now you can find these 16-ounce small lid jars at any of your Hobby Lobbies. You can find it at Michael's. And you can also find it at Joann's. And you can also find these at any of your grocery stores as well, like Walmart's or Kroger's. They have them, Target has them, and they're super inexpensive. And another place to look for these is, of course, some of your secondhand stores like Goodwill or Salvation Army. People are always getting rid of their old canning jars. Just wash them up real good, and you've got some great jars to use for this project. Another place to look for jars is your pantry. 16-ounce pickle jars or mayonnaise jars, and sometimes you can use them, sometimes you can't. You just have to check and see. This one is glass and this one is plastic. I recommend, if you're going to be giving these to children, that you try to come up with some of the plastic ones. All right, enough chit-chat. Let's get started. We're going to begin with a slip knot. We're going to chain 5. We're going to join this chain 5 into a circle by putting the tail over your hook and pulling it through that loop. Then we'll snug that down and tie that stay knot. If you would prefer to use a magic circle, you certainly can. I just prefer this method for this project. We're going to chain 3. Our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, and then we're going to double crochet 12 more double crochets, so we have a total of 13 double crochets stitched right in this chain 5 loop or circle. And you'll notice I'm stitching over that tail of yarn, and that's because when I'm done I can pull that tail and close that circle, and I'll show you how I do that. So we're stitching 12 additional double crochets, and then counting our chain 3, we'll have 13 double crochets for row 1. All right, let's see how many I have so far. Here's our chain 3, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I need to do 3 more double crochets. 11, 12, and 13. We're going to join to the top of our chain 3 with a slip stitch and chain 3, and we have a hole. So we'll just turn it over and gently tug on that string, and that hole will close right up, and then we can come back in with our needle and weave that in. And this is how row 1 will look. All right, let's do row 2. Our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. We're going to place another double crochet right in the same stitch as that chain 3. Then we're going to place 2 double crochets in each of the double crochets around. We're going to place 2 double crochets in each of those 13 double crochets, and so for row 2 we'll have 26 double crochets. We'll work this on around and then we'll join to our chain 3. I've stitched those 2 double crochets in each double crochet around. I'm going to join to the top of that chain 3, and this time I'm just going to chain 1 instead of 3. And that's because we're going to stitch 1 single crochet in each of the double crochets around. So we'll go right in that next stitch and stitch a single crochet. You go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through both loops. 1 single crochet in each double crochet around. And we'll do this all the way around and join back to that first single crochet. I've stitched a single crochet in each stitch around. I'm going to join to the first single crochet with a slip stitch and chain 3. Now I'm going to pop this out because this is the outside, and we're going to start working up around the top of our cozy. And for row 4, we're just going to stitch 1 double crochet in each of the single crochets around. Your stitch count will still remain at 26, and it will for the remainder of the bottle portion or the cozy portion of our crochet project. We won't be adding or subtracting any stitches. We're going to stay with 26 stitches on each of the rows or rounds. Since we're going around, we can call it a round if we want to. Alright, so for row 4, I'm just stitching 1 double crochet in each of the single crochets around. I've stitched that row of 1 double crochet in each of the single crochets. I joined to the chain 3 with a slip stitch, and I chained 3. For row 5, we're going to be alternating 2 regular double crochets and 2 front post double crochets all the way around, and that's what's going to give us that fun texture that looks a little bit like a basket. Our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, so we're going to place a double crochet in the next stitch. Now we're going to place a double crochet around the next 2 front posts of our double crochet. We normally stitch up here. We're going to be going around the post, so we'll yarn over and we'll go around that post of our stitch and stitch our double crochet. We're still stitching double crochets, we're just putting them in a different place. And by putting them around those posts, it makes them lift up some, and that's what, like I said, gives us the texture of a basket. We're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the next 2, just a regular double crochet in the next 2 stitches. Then we'll stitch a front post double crochet in the next 2 stitches. And so we're alternating 2 regular double crochets and 2 front post double crochets, moving around our work. 1 double crochet in the next 2, 1 front post double crochet in the next 2. See how that looks? We'll complete this all the way around, and then we'll join back to that chain 3. 2 regular double crochets and 2 front post double crochets, 1 in each of the next 2 stitches. I've completed that row, alternating my regular double crochets with my front posts. And what we're going to do for row 7 is we're going to repeat what we just did. So we'll stitch a double crochet in the next double crochet. Then we'll stitch a front post in the front post of the next 2 stitches. And then we'll stitch a double crochet in the double crochet of the next 2 stitches. And again, we're alternating regular double crochets with front post double crochets, working all the way around. So basically, row 7, we're just repeating what we did on row 6. I've completed row 7. I joined to the top of the chain 3, and I'm going to chain 3. Now, row 8 and row 9, we're going to be doing the opposite of what we just did. All right, so I'm going to take that chain 3 out. I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to front post double crochet around that chain, the chain 3 from the previous row. And then I'm going to front post double crochet around the next stitch. That brings us to the 2 front post double crochets, and we're just going to stitch a double crochet in the top of those instead of stitching around them. So we're still alternating 2 and 2, but we're doing the opposite of what we did. So the next 2 stitches are our regular double crochets. So we're going to stitch a front post double crochet around those next 2 stitches. This brings us to our 2 front post double crochets, and we'll stitch just a regular double crochet in those next 2 stitches. So basically, where you have a front post, you're stitching a regular stitch, and where you have a regular stitch, you're stitching front post stitches. All right, the opposite of what we did. And we'll do this all the way around. Alternating regular double crochets and front post double crochets all the way around for row 8, working the opposite of what we did in row 6 and 7. So I've completed row 8, alternating my front posts and my regular double crochets, the opposite of the other 2 rows. And for row 9, we're just going to repeat what we did for row 8. We're going to stitch a front post around the front post, and stitch a double crochet in the double crochet. There we go. All right. So for row 9, we're just repeating row 8. Regular stitches in the regular double crochets, front post double crochets in the front post double crochet stitches. And again, we're working all the way around, and we'll join to that chain 3. I've completed row 9, and I just really wanted you to take a look how this looks. Here's our front post from the previous rows, and here's our front post from these 2 rows. And you can see how they're every other, and they're the opposite. I really like the way that looks. All right, now, one thing I wanted to show you is we're using 26 stitches, and so you're going to end up with 4 regular double crochet stitches together at the end, because we start with 2 and end with 2, and the same thing with the front post double crochets at the end of these 2 rows, because we're starting with 2 again and ending with 2. That will be over to the side of your basket when we put the handle on, and it won't even be something that you'll notice. All right, now for rows 10 and 11, we're going to be repeating what we did on row 6 and 7, and we'll be doing the opposite of the 2 rows that we just did. All right, so our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, and then we're going to double crochet in the next stitch. Then we're going to do 1 front post double crochet in the next 2 stitches. So basically, we're doing the opposite again, repeating row 6 and 7. 1 double crochet in the next 2 front post double crochet stitches, and then 2 front post double crochet stitches, 1 in each of the next 2 regular double crochets. See how it makes it look a little bit like a basket? All right, so we'll continue this all the way around like we have, and then we'll repeat for another row. For row 10 and 11, we'll be stitching 1 double crochet in the next 2, and then 1 front post double crochet in the next 2 for 2 rows. I've completed those 2 rows. Regular double crochet with front post double crochets alternating. And isn't it fun how this looks like a basket with those front post stitches? All right, now for row 12, we join to the top of our chain 3. We're going to chain 3, and for this row we're just going to place 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets or each of the stitches around. And again, you'll have 26 double crochets. 1 double crochet in each stitch around. Then we'll join back to the top of our chain 3. I completed that row of just 1 double crochet in each double crochet around. I'm going to join to the top of my chain 3 and only chain 1. And this last row for the top of our koozie or cozy, we're just going to stitch a single crochet in each of those double crochets. Now, if you do not want to have the handle on your jar cozy, you don't have to put the handle on it. I just really love the handle on there because it makes it look like an Easter or spring basket. So for this row, we're just stitching 1 single crochet in each of the double crochets around, and then I'm going to show you how to add the handle. I completed that row of single crochets, and now I'm going to join to the first single crochet with a slip stitch and chain 1. If you do not want the handle, you can tie off, weave in your end, and move on to the little bow or whatever embellishment that you would like. To make the handle, it's really simple. We're going to single crochet in the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're going to chain 1 and turn. Then we'll single crochet again in those 5 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Chain 1 and turn. So we'll continue to stitch 1 single crochet in each single crochet, chain 1 and turn up through row 36, and that's going to give us about 24 rows. If you want your handle a little shorter, you can do less rows, and if you want your handle a little bit longer, you can do more rows. Just keep in mind, if you make it longer, it's not going to be as stiff or hold its shape because it'll be a little bit longer, not quite as sturdy. So I'm going to continue stitching 1 single crochet in each single crochet across, chain 1 and turn up through row 36. Once your handle is the length that you would like it, we're going to cut our yarn. I'm going to leave a good amount, about 16 or 18 inches, and we're going to tie off. Now you're going to want to line it up so you have the same amount on each side, like this. And what I do is I turn it like this because I'm going to be stitching in here because we don't want the stitches to show. All right, so we'll take our hook, we'll go in that first stitch where we've lined it up. We'll pull the hook through, and we're just going to stitch slip stitches in these 5 stitches. Make sure I'm going in the right spot there. All right, then I'm going to pull this through, and then I'm going to go ahead and take my needle and thread that on there. And I'm just going to go back over it with a few whip stitches because I want that to stay put. I don't want it to come undone. Because it is going to be, if you carry it, that is, be carried by the handle, and the jar could be a glass jar or it could be full of goodies, and so we want to make sure that's not going to come undone. All right, so now I'm just going to weave it in a little bit, going back and forth through the stitches, and then cut that off. All right, so there's our handle that it looks like if you flip it over. All right, now make sure that where you had your 4 stitches together is on the back of your koozie or cozy, and here's the front of your cozy. Isn't that cute? All right, so now I'm going to show you how to make that little bow and attach it, and then we'll be all ready to put it on the jar and fill it with goodies. The bow is really simple. We're going to begin with a slip knot, and we're going to chain 8. We're going to place a single crochet in the second chain from the hook, and then we'll place a single crochet in each of the chains across. All right, now we're going to turn our work, that tail out of the way, and we're going to stitch down the opposite side of that chain. So we'll go right in that first chain and stitch a single crochet, and we'll stitch one in each of those chains, working back down what's called the opposite or other side of the chain. See how that looks? Got a nice seam in the middle. We're going to join to the first single crochet with a slip stitch, and then we're going to cut our yarn. Well, make sure you give yourself a little bit of yarn because we're going to need that to attach it to the basket. All right, now what I do at this point is I go behind the next stitch, I grab that loop and pull it in, and then I tie that off. And that helps the two edges look a little bit rounded. All right, now we're going to go ahead and weave the short end in. So I'm just going to weave it going one way, just like that. And go ahead and cut that off. All right, so now we have our oval and our string, and this is where we ended. So I'm going to go ahead and weave that onto my, or thread that onto my needle. And then we're going to go weave that in and go ahead to the center of our bow. All right, so here's our bow. This is in the center, and what I do is I make a little stitch just to keep it in the center. And then I'm going to turn this over, and I'm going to take the end of this and I'm going to wrap it around the center 3 or 4 times, pulling that in to look like a bow. All right, and then on the last time, I give it a nice good snug. And then I'm just going to stitch that through those loops a couple of times. All right, and that's why we needed a nice long string, because we're also going to use this to attach it to our basket. But before we do that, we want to add our button. And I'm using this purple one, so I'm going to thread my purple yarn back on it. And I'm going to add the button. Now, you don't have to have a button. There's all kinds of fun Easter buttons out there too you can use, or you can just put flowers on it like I did with the other one. Doesn't matter. However you want to embellish your bow and your basket. All right, now this button, it's not going to be buttoned or unbuttoned, so I usually just put 2 or 3 thread of yarn through it, and then I'll go ahead and just tie a knot back here behind the bow. It's going to make it stay in place. And if you're worried about it, you can always add a little bit of fray check or fabric glue. I really try not to use hot glue with yarn. A lot of people like it. I just am afraid that I'm going to burn it if it's acrylic, so I try not to. I do sometimes, but I try not to. All right, so there's our bow. Here's our little basket koozie, and you can decide where you want to put the bow. You can put it down lower if you want to. You can put it up on the edge if you want to. You can even put it down here if you want to. It's up to you. I just really like them up at the top. And so what I'll do is I'll take this yarn, I'll go through, and I'll go make a few stitches here, and then I'll go to the other side, thread that back on my needle, there we go, and I'll make a few stitches there, and I'll just keep doing that until I run out of yarn, and making sure that I'm happy where I've got it placed, and it's going to stay put. All right, so there's my little bow, and I'm going to go into the inside of my basket edge and just weave that in until, again, I'm happy it's going to stay put. And also you can put a little bit of fray check or glue on that if you want to. If it's going to get a lot of wear and tear, you always can, because you don't want it to fall apart, right? All right, so here's our little basket style jar koozie. Let's go ahead and show you how to put it on. I move the handle out of the way, turn the jar the right direction, and just slide it on. And there's our little basket style koozie. So here's the purple or lavender one I just made. Here's the yellow one I made the other day with the little flower. And here's the brown one that I also made. I think the beige one's my favorite because it looks more like a basket because of the color. But these are super fun to make, super easy, and they make the best gifts and springtime decorations.